love you're special. Love you're special. No, you don't go, you go, thank you.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm going to have to coach you through a lot of this stuff. Love you special. You start by saying, if you're here because you're depressed and you want to hear depression stuff, I'm happy now. Which I like, because it has that kind of, let's pick it up where we left off kind of thing. And it acknowledges to the audience, like, a real thing. Your other specials were a lot about depression.
Yeah.
Blocks and 3 mics.
Yes.
And, like, how did you arrive at that, telling people that? And also, how'd you get happy?
The first one is a very simple answer. First of all, good to see you. Guy smothers you with compliments, so then you look like the asshole. It's I did a show in DC at the Kennedy Center.
Yeah.
Somebody DMs me afterward, a guy, and said, I spent $150 on those tickets, got front row, it's my birthday. I kept waiting for you to show up.
Oh gosh.
Which, because I never mentioned depression.
Wow.
So then I put that in.
Wow.
Because I was like, oh, they want Morrissey to be sad. Whatever, not like I'm more, but you know what I mean?
Right, I
have like, part of my brand is dealing with mental health stuff. So I said it, and I will say that it made the show better and clearer because you weren't waiting for it after that. But I put it in when the guy directly said that. So
yeah, sometimes feedback is helpful.
Yeah, it's not even. He didn't say put a disclaimer on at the beginning. It's the thing with any note or whatever. It's just like, tell me where it hurts, and I'll tell you, and I'll try to think of a solution for the pain. I won't go, don't WebMD it, and then tell me how to fix the show, which he didn't. He just said, like, I was disappointed that the you I've come to expect wasn't there.
It's so funny because you called me when that Kennedy Center show happened, and you were like, hey, I have this thing. I don't quite know what to do about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't we talk?
People are sort of waiting for me to be depressed, and like, I'm not depressed.
Yeah.
But like, how did you arrive at being happy? I mean, you talk a lot about the magnets treatment and talk therapy and all kinds of different things. Ayahuasca, I think? Yeah. DMT, ayahuasca, and MDMA get the first 3 special thanks. Oh my God.
Because they did it. They did the work.
What is happening when you use that stuff? Because I haven't tried
it's
it. I haven't done any of that
It's like
stuff.
a longer, it's sort of boring. But in my case, it got me off antidepressants and took me from atheism to a belief in a central creation force.
Wow.
So pretty big for $300. And so that's what it did that's what I was aware of.
But then you sold that to someone else for $300, right?
Yeah. So it was what I flipped it. I watered it down, flipped it.
You sold it for $800.
Yeah.
That person sold it for $1,100.
And I have an album coming out.
You are a perpetually funny person. You got out of your car outside just now, and you go. You made a joke about.
I'm wearing a giant backpack because I'm going to the airport.
Yeah, and you made a joke. You go. It was either be completely embarrassed or wear this backpack.
No, it was either have dignity or put on a backpack, and I chose backpack.
You are a perpetual joke machine. Like, even just knowing you, talking to you on the phone with some regularity. Here's what I'll say that's good about that, because there's a lot of things that are bad about that. There's
none that I'm aware of. Go ahead.
Well, that your brain doesn't stop. Like, that your brain just creates punchlines out of things all the time.
I also don't think that I'm escaping from reality. I don't think I'm one of these comics that, like, I'm not a pushy, sweaty comic where I'm like just constantly doing bits and like, hey, can I go over this thing with you? Like, well, if anything, it's the opposite. People are like, okay, with the earnestness. I did Chelsea Handler's podcast yesterday, and she was like, all right, with the gravity.
Ernest found God.
Yeah.
Got rid of, overcame my depression and stuff.
Yeah. Enough with the heartwarming.
I could see her saying that. I mean,
she's doing her version of it.
She's doing her thing.
Yeah.
But like, you're a fountain of jokes, but what's good is you're happy and you're still a fountain of jokes, which disproves the theory you have to be depressed to be funny, right?
Disproves, yeah.
Or disproves the theory.
Yeah. It disproves the theory. Yeah, I never thought that was a real thing. The first time I did ayahuasca with my friend Bajan, he goes, are we going to be able to be capitalists after this?
Sure, yeah.
And you worry that like you'll be broken irrevocably. There's a book called The Shallows about the internet, and my takeaway was the line, you are what you do repeatedly. So if you're checking Instagram, you'll get in the Instagram, like the algorithm, you become the algorithm, et cetera, et cetera. If you've spent 30 years writing jokes, it's like passive. It's like passively going to do it, and I don't have to be like, okay, it's just going to do it in the background. It's like having a background app open all the time that I'm not mad at. Then I just decide whether to say the joke or not.
Right. You're deciding whether to say the joke. I always find that people are confused by me socially because I'm not saying jokes all the time.
Yeah.
And I have, sometimes people ask me about that point blank, and I'm like, I have to be like, you don't understand. Like, if I said the jokes that I say on stage in life, it wouldn't land. Like, it would just sit there.
I think Dave said it's a language. Comedy is a language that he speaks fluently. And it is like, it's not really funny. Side note, there was the version of what you're saying. Somebody was on a date at the Comedy Store with a woman, and me and Fahim Anwar and Ian Edwards were talking to the guy who was on the date with the woman. And then afterward, Ian or Fahim or both of them goes, she was working out bits. The girl was doing bits with us. I know what a bit sounds like. Yeah. It's not connective. It's not communicative. It's like its own thing. Yeah. It's like reading a quote from Voltaire in mid conversation. It's like, why what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah. So that's why whatever, I'll do a bit if it is like we know when to like, all right, this could use a bit. Yeah. This social interaction could stand a little bit, just a little something. I'll give them a little pixie dust.
It's interesting. Like you interviewed Seinfeld today for your podcast Blocks, which I love.
I mean, I listen to this day. Interviewed Seinfeld and then had lunch with Ari Melber. If that's not Passover, I don't know what is. Guys, where are my Jews at?
You doing crowd work on a podcast?
In the camera. Where are my Jews at? Raise your hand. Yes, I was thinking about that. Me and Jerry talk for 90 minutes. It'll be out maybe by the time this comes.
Yeah, it will.
But just maybe we say 4 funny things.
Yeah.
Because we're just not doing that. We're not speaking in joke. It's like we're just not doing that then.
So he said this thing that you repeated a moment ago, which.
So I opened up with the backpack bit, and then I said, just so everybody knows what happened. Did the backpack bit, crushed. Mm-hmm. Then I said,
moments ago when you got out of your car,
I didn't want to podcast flex and go like, yeah. But I wanted to tell you what he said. Anyway, Jerry and I were talking, and I said, my question for him is like, what's the downside? I said, what's your negative inner monologue sound like when you're on stage? Yeah. And he said, why are you doing this? You shouldn't be up here. "You're not a comedian. You're a writer."
Yeah.
To which I said, "Is that your inner monologue or mine?"
Yes.
And he said, "It's mine." And I said, "Does your inner monologue specifically mention writing for Dave Chappelle?" So I don't know why we're mentioning that other than the...
Well, the reason I brought it up is Seinfeld famously said that specific thing. Comedians aren't more depressed than other professions are depressed. He's like, if you break apart people who work for USPS or people...
And Mulaney had a great joke.
People are doctors,
like,
etc.
Tons of people are... So many people are depressed and aren't funny at all.
Exactly.
At least we're doing something. We're contributing to society with some of our depression.
Your Mulaney joke in your special is so funny because you basically say, like, many, many brilliant people in history are psychopaths or drug addicts.
Yes.
And you go through a whole ton of people. And then you get to Mulaney and you go, he told me to tell you he's
John Mulaney told me to remind you he's a drug addict, which has actually happened.
Literally?
Literally.
You're not just referencing the special.
No. I was telling Mulaney the bit I was doing.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You mentioned me?" And I go, "I could." And he goes, "Yeah, go ahead." And then it crushed, and I sent it to him. I don't even really know why it crushes so hard.
Yeah. You name check a bunch of people, like in your special, Ellen, Mulaney, Chappelle,
Rogan,
Bill
Burr,
you check with
and
them?
Kevin Hart.
You check with them?
Yep.
All
Sent
of them?
them all. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I was calling the day of the show because I was trying to figure out what ended up being What Do the Clowns Think?
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out a way to say, like, why are people looking to you? Why are people looking to the guy who played Rick James for transgender advice? Like, how to say that?
Right.
I kept missing him, and then I had said, "What do the clowns think?" once at my show in Santa Monica. Didn't work.
Yeah.
But I was like, I feel like that's funny, and then I just did it on the special, and it worked. So
Right.
the
basic premise of the joke. If people haven't seen it, people should watch the special. But go ahead.
The basic premise is, that comedians are now leaders. Like, comedians are now...
We've become thought leaders.
Yes, because corporate leaders failed, political leaders failed, and media leaders failed. They're all in it for the money. So then we become, we just, because the systems failed, like, all right, well, step up, comedians.
Right.
So I'm saying how stupid that is. Like, why would you have a serious issue like transgender stuff and go, well, what do the clowns think?
Right. What do the
Has
clowns
anyone
think?
asked the clowns where they stand? I did a joke about Ellen. The version I didn't do was like, is Ellen nice? Like, don't worry, you're never going to meet her.
Yes, that's so funny.
Like, just keep people where they are.
Wait, you have a Kyrie Irving reference.
Yeah, I have Kyrie Irving and a Lance
Did you talk to Kyrie Irving?
I didn't talk to Kyrie. I didn't speak to any of the athletes.
Yeah.
So it's just like, is so-and-so a good dad? Before I answer this, are you his son?
That's very funny.
Then why do you care?
Yeah.
Because I need everybody. It's the thing of like the everything marriage, like where your wife has to be your best friend and your confidant and your business partner, and you guys jog together and you do hot yoga and it's like that. It's too much pressure for one person.
Yeah.
And it's similar. I feel similarly with people in culture where it's like, is Kevin Hart humble? What? Where? What? Why would you want that?
Yeah. That's a joke from the special. It's one of my favorite jokes from the special, which is like, is Kevin Hart humble?
Yeah.
It's like, look,
like you're a handyman. You're not humble.
Right.
Is that 5'3" billionaire humble? What do you think? How humble do you think he is on a scale from Napoleon to Tom Cruise? Where do you think little Kev fits in? And then that's the other thing. One night a woman was like, why you got to call him little Kev? And it's like, because I've known him for 20 years and his first name and headshot was Lil Kev the Bastard.
He used to go by Lil Kev the Bastard. That was his stage name.
That's correct.
It's one of the funniest.
Look it up. Yep.
It's one of the
Look
funniest
so that's
factoids
why
in
I
comedy.
call him Lil Kev.
Lil Kev the bastard.
Yes, to answer your question, woman who thinks I'm disrespecting him, is I'm calling him by the name he told me to call him by.
Lil Kev.
Lil Kev.
Lil Kev the bastard. Keith Robinson, I think, still calls him that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were saying you got a DM from that person being like, where were you? How come you didn't show
Yeah.
up? Do you have that? You must have that with your fans to some degree because you're so open about your depression. People must. Do people come up to you and talk to you about their issues?
Yeah, if somebody, there's certain, now that I have a girlfriend, like I have significantly less interest in social media, meaning like if I'm not promoting a tour and if I'm not waiting for women to DM me, it's useless.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I got a DM yesterday about like a woman said that her son had committed suicide and she watched 3 mics, and after that she's like, I wish I could have, it made me understand what he was going through.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, just like I get choked up talking about it. Something like that I respond to.
Yeah.
But like, yo, what's up? I don't have any. Like
Right.
stuff like that I will. That's meaningful and I think it would be inhumane not to respond.
Do you feel like
Beyond horrible branding. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Do you think when you get a message like that, does it make you feel like as a comic that we serve a purpose?
Yeah, I don't get too caught up in, that wasn't why I did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not like, when I leave my house, I don't go like, I'll be at the Comedy Store doing a public service, sweetheart, back in a half hour. It's going to be funny. And then I think with just a regular bit about me saying people are always overusing the word trauma on social media, that's not, no one's going to thank me. I mean, people have thanked me in the comments, but like I think the biggest thing is saying to people, you're not crazy. It is overused. You're not crazy. The crypto bros are like aggravating. Just regular bits.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
do you think that even subconsciously, that's what got you into comedy when you were a teenager?
which part?
The part of like feeling less alone, of like, oh, this person thinks this thing that I thought was just a thing I thought.
I think the regarded inspiration for comedy and I don't want to say anything in life, it's just status seeking.
Yeah.
Just like I would like some higher status in the world, please.
Yeah.
But I think the need is, I said it to my girlfriend the other day about like, you want love. Maybe it's parental love, and then you shove status in the hole.
Yeah.
In the love hole. And it kind of fits. For a while, you have to there's gaps and stuff, but you kind of just shove it in.
Yeah.
So I think you can be an incredible artist and still have the absolute worst reasoning why.
Yeah.
Like and I say that not even firsthand. I say it like, no, I know incredible artists who are basically doing it because they want status and money and popularity and fame and they make pitch perfect art.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a thing that people don't say enough. It's like, no, we're social animals. We would like to be higher on the status hierarchy.
Yeah.
And I say that as somebody who was like, I was very low status for, I wrote for All That and MTV, and then did Half Baked, and I was sort of like, me and Dave wrote it together, but it was like, I remember how old are you, Neal? Well, at the Wedding Singer premiere, the producer of The Wedding Singer had produced Half Baked, and he introduced me to his father, and he said, Dad, this is the guy who wrote Half Baked. He's more talented than he looks.
Oh my God.
So I was never like the belle of the ball
Right.
and like the flash bulbs and all that stuff. And even at your premiere for
Thank God for Jokes or my
no, the
Girlfriend's
one that was in
Boyfriend?
LA.
Oh yeah. The old man in the pool.
Old man in the pool. I was stepping out. I thought they wanted me to take pictures, and then they were like, "No, not you,
No, not you. Oh my God.
somebody else." And I was like, "Oh, this
Oh.
is great." Because I don't think you get funnier by getting your picture taken.
No,
I
I
think
don't
you
think-
get funnier by them going, "Not you,
Not you.
I think
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got 3% funnier
I get
just
that.
in that moment.
Yeah, I get that.
But I would like it. I'd like to eradicate that from my life. The good news is it'll never go away. I know it's never going to go away. Like, I just also attract that.
Yeah.
So
You're
it's thwarted status. I became a very high status writer and then didn't really want to be, and then became like a low status director and an even lower status comedian, and then have worked my way up the status ladder in stand-up.
the on the Kennedy Center honors for Chappelle. You tell this story about how you got involved with Half Baked, and I'm like, it's so funny of a story that I'm like, is it even 100% true? Basically, I'll paraphrase. Dave Chappelle calls you, and who you're friends with, and we're kicking
I'll
around
tell the
jokes with.
story because
Yeah,
there's parts
of course.
that I didn't put in the thing.
Okay.
Me and Chappelle we'd written whatever. I was working the door, and then I gave him some like pitches for tags for his act that worked. Right. This is in 92, 93. He actually flew me out to LA when he was doing Robin Hood Men in Tights, and we just hung out, and it was like we had lunch with Mel Brooks, just like cool, like radio contest winner stuff. Like great. Really like kind. We go to Arsenio. He was a guest. It was like just he gave me like sort of like got me in, and I was like, oh shit. 96 we see Train Spotting, the movie. It's a great movie. I love it. And we're walking out. It was late 96, and he's like, yeah, you could do like a weed movie. You could do a weed version of that. I'm like, oh yeah. Literally, he says you could do a weed version of that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's true.
Of Train Spotting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4 months later, he says, if Universal calls, tell them we're doing a weed movie.
Oh my God.
That's all I knew.
Yeah.
So then they called me.
And you were like, okay.
I had no idea what he was talking about.
Yeah.
I guess I was like, the train. Whatever. It was just like a thing we'd said. I'd written a script that had nothing to do with him that the producer's office had read. And then I had a meeting with the producer where I was just funny in the meeting. This is before David gone in.
Okay.
So then he goes, I'm writing a weed movie with my buddy. And they go, who? And he goes, you've never heard of him. They go, who? And he goes, Neal Brennan. And they go, he was just here.
Okay.
So then he says, if they call you, we're doing a weed movie. They call me. They go, are you doing a weed movie? I was like, yes.
Oh my gosh.
When can you pitch it? And I don't know anything about Hollywood. And I go, in 30 days time, like being legal about it. So then I'm like probably paging him in this.
Right.
Is
This is
like
the 90s.
Maybe he has a cell phone. I don't remember. The day before, I say, hey man, we got to outline that weed movie. We have a pitch tomorrow.
Wow.
The joke that I added was, and then he said, what weed movie?
What weed movie? Yeah.
Added. And in fact, I think Trayvon Free pitched me that joke like the day before.
Yeah.
Huge. So we're trying to outline this movie. I'd given him this book, The Writer's Journey, which has got like the best screenplay structure guide in it. I'd given it to him like a week earlier, like, hey, we should read this. I'd read it. It was helpful. I was like, we should read this. I think he read at least, and like he just was like, he got it. So then we had we were pitching Monday at 9:30 or something. And we took the Sunday and just did this with like index cards. Cause I'd seen a documentary on PBS about two screenwriters called Lowell Gans and Babalu Mandel who wrote City Slickers.
That's right.
If I don't see that, I don't know what we're doing.
Wow.
So then we're just and then we just basically outlined what became the movie that day.
Yeah.
And at one point we went to the Comedy Store because it was across the street, and like Roseanne was there, and this is like when Roseanne's a big deal, and she like said to Dave, like, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Dave Chappelle," and she was like, "I've heard of you," and then I go for a joke, I go, "I'm Richard Pryor," and she's like, "What?" I was like, "All right." I just got 3% funnier. And then we pitch it the next day, and we basically sold the movie. This is in March, and then we're shooting in July. Like, just an insane.
That's very weird.
Yeah, the thing that got cut was, then it gets made, gets greenlit, gets made. It came out the next January, so it was less than a year.
Yeah.
From pitch to screen.
Yeah.
And the joke is like, in that level of quality really shows up on screen. But the whole time we were doing it, people were like, movies don't usually get made this quickly. And in the back of our heads, we're like, maybe not for you, they don't.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, of course, we opened against Good Will Hunting and Titanic, and like, didn't happen for us again that way either.
Yeah. It's a bizarre timeline. Dave was one of the first people I ever opened for. Total fluke. I won the funniest person on campus at Georgetown. You can open for.
And he said, "Who's the funniest person from Georgetown?"
No. So then it was just he was the headliner.
Yeah.
And
at the DC Improv.
Yeah. And then I asked him. It was in 1997, I think. Was that the year it came out? The movie?
Yeah. It came out in 98, January.
98. So that was like the first time I did stand up. And I asked him for advice, and then I remember he goes, "Make sure all your friends go see Half Baked." All right, this is a slow round. What are people's favorite and least favorite thing about you? This is like your podcast.
I mean, this is both categories, Mike, are so long.
Okay.
Friends or audience members?
Friends.
Like, probably loyal, funny, thoughtful, and intelligent.
Yeah.
And helpful if asked.
Yeah.
And unlike, probably petty, self-involved. Probably callous. Brian Simpson was on my podcast. Great comedian from Austin. He's got a Netflix special called Life with the Mothership, and he goes, the problem is your voice sounds like you're perturbed and in a hurry. And the minute I heard it, I was like, he's right. I can't even. He's absolutely right. So petty.
Yeah.
Grudge holding. Probably self-involved.
Seem like you're in a hurry.
And seem like I'm perturbed and in a hurry.
When's the time you didn't apologize but wish you did?
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind, this is from 26 years ago. My friend at the time, Randy, or whatever, he's still my friend. He doesn't speak to me, but we're friends. Don't worry about it. And he's my friend. I don't know, whatever.
This is like,
look, here's the great thing about me is I stop speaking to people all the time. Not all the time, but once a year probably. And but when people stop speaking to me, fair and square.
Yeah.
I don't go, I don't know why. I can figure out.
Yeah.
You heard the list.
Yeah.
And he was doing a seminar or something. There was a screenwriting class in a high school in Long Island, and I said I told somebody about a movie I told the class about, and a kid pitched an idea that in retrospect is a good idea, and I didn't say that's a good idea. I was like, but I that's the thing where I was like, that's one where like if I had a do-over just off the top of my head.
Why didn't you say it was a good idea?
Because it was like derivative, but at that age, it's like they're going to be derivative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was derivative in a good way. That's the one that comes to mind. Apologize when I wish I'd apologized to most women I dated in the moment. It's a different thing. I wish I'd ended relationships sooner. That's not even near the question, but I wish I'd ended certain romantic relationships sooner and personal relationships sooner. I wish I'd cut more people off sooner. Not cut them off, but there are some small businesses, some ideas, some jokes, some relationships that are just never going to work. And I feel like I've thrown I've abided by the sunk cost fallacy of like, well, I've already put in so much time. Let me put in more.
Right. So well, you've had this a handful of times, and I can cut this out if it's too personal, but like a handful of times where you and I have friends in common where you're like, yeah, I'm not really friends with them anymore. I'm kind of done with the rigmarole of like chasing them down kind of thing. And I'm always kind of like, as your friend, I'm like, yeah, but that's what that person's like.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? But you're kind of just like, nah.
Well, if that's what they're like, what I'm going to do is stop talking to them. That's it. It's like, I just have like more the ayahuasca DMT MDMA combo.
Yeah.
Has given me some self-respect.
So
more than I've ever had.
Do you think you changed the way that you perceive friendship from that? Like, in other words, do you think you used to be okay with like an 80-20 friendship or a 60-40 friendship?
Yeah, and I think I've said to you, it's got to be 55-45 at worst.
Oh, interesting.
Ideally, a relationship's 50-50. It's impossible. The measurements are impossible. But so you're going to 55 in terms of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be 50-50. It'll go, times, currents, events, whatever. But I find hollow relationships dispiriting and depleting, whereas I used to tell myself they were enriching, and they just weren't.
That makes sense. What do you remember a time in your life where you were an inauthentic version of yourself?
Yeah, I think the assumption when you're an inauthentic version of yourself is that you're doing it maliciously. You're doing it like you're the talented Mr. Ripley.
Right.
I'm doing duplicity. I think it's hard to figure out who you are.
Yeah.
Like I thought of a bit that I haven't even written yet, but I thought of a bit of like a lot of life is being a shitty detective for like yourself.
Yes.
Like, is this my identity? And you're at a nightclub, like with a magnifying glass going like, is it? Of course it couldn't be in a nightclub. To the gymnasium. And then to driver to the Equinox. And then you're looking like, maybe I'm a bodybuilder.
Yes.
And maybe I'm or even, I don't know if I said this to you. I may have said it to you, but like I remember seeing an art exhibit like in Midtown in the 90s when I would just walk around. And there was a sign that said like the purpose of one's life is to give birth to themselves. And I remember going like, it just like boing, like, all right, that's in my Magna Carta now.
Yeah. Well, that's what you go back. That's what goes back to the thing you're saying about uneven friendships. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
it's like
you don't. It's like
you reach a point where you're like, I don't really want.
I know what happens, and I didn't feel good.
Yeah,
and it happened 100 times. So I'm like, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take its word for it. And it's not. And the nice thing is, it's not even malicious.
Yeah,
it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
We could, but I don't like it. So
how do you open this out to someone who's listening? Because I think what you're saying is super relatable, and I think you should consider talking about it in your next special. This idea of like, if you're in an uneven friendship or relationship, but it's like, what would your advice be to someone who's listening to this going like, oh yeah, that's me. He's like, what?
Well, who are they? They the hero or the villain?
No, they're the person who's getting like the 30-70, the 30 of the 30-70 friendship.
Well, yeah, like I said, my friend Randy hasn't spoken to me in 8 years, a long time.
Yeah.
Told me why. I was like, I can't argue with it. And so I don't think he's wrong. I wasn't fulfilling my side of the relationship. So if you don't feel fulfilled by it, and even telling the person, sometimes there have been relationships where I've been like, I can tell you, but I don't. It's like, I don't need you to change. It's just not. It doesn't work for me. But I don't think you're a shitty person. I just think like you're set up the way you're set up, and that's just what you're going to be set up as.
Yeah.
It's the Maya Angelou. If somebody tells you who they are, believe them.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's on magnets.
It's so true. It's on magnets.
You know what I mean? Like, it's so beyond true. It's useless. So yeah, like I think it's hard, and relationships are hard work. They're not that hard, and they're not even romantic ones. They're not. They don't have to be that hard. They require maintenance. They require spraying the boat down, but they're not. You don't have to build the boat by yourself. You just spray it down together. So yeah, I think you might miss that person, but in my experience, you won't miss the person. You'll just wish you wish it worked out, but you won't be like, man, I wish I had some more disrespect in my life.
Okay. Material. I want to talk about material. This was the thing I had this week, which is I threw on stage this week, and I don't know what to do with it exactly, but I'm doing this thing. I was doing this thing about cults and how I would be open to sort of joining a cult, and it's a joke. I go the first episode of the documentary is you always feel
I'm on board.
Yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah.
The community. There's a good sense of community. There's good, Roberto makes a nice quiche. There's some carpooling.
It's communal.
It's communal. The second episode, it's like, then we had to have sex with leader. And I'm just like...
No, I did a joke.
Oh, you did a similar joke?
I did a joke in the documentary thing in Crazy Good where I was like, I said, if you haven't seen one of the cult documentaries, here's what happened. There's a cult. It's going pretty good.
Yeah. And
then at a certain point, the leader goes, hey, everybody, I spoke to God. He needs me to fuck all your wives.
My God. Jesus Christ.
And that's what happens in all. It's
the same documentary over and over again.
Yes, it's just like different haircuts, different outfits.
But here's what's funny. So I did it in Texas. I did that joke in Texas, and it was... And
they can hear you, even if you're
did a joke in Texas a few weeks ago, and someone wrote me a letter. And again, we're talking about feedback earlier.
A letter?
Email. They wrote me an email. And it was basically
registered mail. Okay,
and it was basically like, I enjoyed the show, but I was concerned because sex with leader, it would be disproportionately, your wife would be affected more by it than you. So I'm like, I was like, no, I know. It's a joke. Yeah. Either this person is like really, really misunderstanding what I'm saying, or I'm very much misconveying what the joke is.
I think they're misunderstanding what you're saying. It's just, that's not, I literally had to write to somebody at one point. It was just in comments, and this is back when I was single, so I was more online. But so I wrote like, you don't understand comedy. I'm up there saying my point of view. And if it's funny, I keep saying it.
Yeah.
I'm not up there to portray. If I just go up there and portray shared values, it's a support group.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah. It's just not comedy. I'm not up there to say, here's what we all believe.
Right.
And read it or say it in a different way.
Right.
Then it's just like claptery, or it's not, it has to be tension, or it's not going to happen. It's not going to be funny. This
was another one where this happened last week. I was in Tulsa, which was great, by the way. When Gary and I, who opens the shows on the tour, when we landed in Tulsa, the driver from the hotel picked us up. We told her it was our first time in town, and so she started calling out the sites. She was like, that's the park, and that's the city hall. And then she pointed to her left, and she goes, and there was a police shootout there last week. And Gary and I sort of flashed each other a look like, we're trying to stay away from there. And then 40 feet later, she stopped the car and said, and here's your hotel.
That's really funny.
It was scary.
Yeah. I thought when there's police shootout last week. Like, oh, congratulations! Like, you guys got a police shootout. Very good. Yeah, that's very funny. And yeah, maybe it's like, oh no, we moved. We changed our reservation. When? Right after you just said what you said.
We just changed our reservation.
Just in the 3 seconds between. Yeah. So let's keep going.
Just keep driving.
Keep going.
Keep driving. We're going to go to a different hotel.
The other place.
All right. The last thing we do on the show is working it out for a cause. Is there a nonprofit that you like to support?
And Amazon Watch is a nonprofit that protects indigenous people and rights.
When I looked it up, just to be clear, a whole bunch of photos of wristwatches showed up.
I should hope so. It sounds like a very fake.
The organization is called AmazonWatch.org, founded in 1996 to protect the rainforest and advance the rights of indigenous peoples in the Amazon basin. We'll contribute to them. We'll link to them in the show notes. Thanks for coming on. Love the special.
Thank you.
I'm so glad it's doing so well.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's awesome. Thank you.
Great to have you, buddy. Great to be here.
We're going to take out great to have you.
Yeah, I think you have.